Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why, despite everything you are doing, despite the sincerity of your effort and the genuineness of your intention, the financial shift you are waiting for has not arrived? Not a small improvement, not a month that was slightly better than the last. The real shift. The one where something fundamental changes in how money moves toward your life and how it stays when it arrives. Have you asked yourself that question honestly, without letting yourself settle too quickly for an answer? I want you to sit in that question for a moment before we go any further. Because the question itself is important, not because the answer is hidden or inaccessible or beyond your reach, but because most people have stopped asking it. They have replaced the genuine inquiry with a quieter, sadder resignation. They have decided, somewhere below the level of conscious thought, that the shift is for other people, that there is something different about the households that receive abundance, and something fixed and unchangeable about the ones that do not. And that quiet decision, that surrender dressed up as realism, is itself one of the primary seals on the channel of provision. I am Rabbi Naomi. I have spent 31 years in the Kabbalistic wisdom traditions of my grandmother's family, who carried these teachings from Vilna, and in the lineage of teachers who preserved these practices through conditions that should have extinguished them and did not. What I am going to share with you today is one of the oldest and most misunderstood practices in the Jewish folk wisdom tradition around money, a practice that predates the written record of it, that was transmitted in whispers through households that understood something about the relationship between the physical and the spiritual that most of the modern world has forgotten entirely. Stay with me until the very end. The practice is simple. The understanding behind it is not. And without the understanding, the practice produces nothing. Before we begin, type the words, "I am ready to receive tonight" in the comments right now. This moment, before you move forward, you are naming your readiness. You are creating the intention before the action. Type it now, and then let me show you where this comes from. I was 34 years old. It was a February, a gray one, the kind of February that sits on you like a stone and shows no sign of lifting. My husband and I had been married for 6 years, and we were in the third year of a financial stretch that I do not have a more elegant word for than grinding. Not crisis. We were not facing eviction. We were not going without food. Nothing so dramatic as that. But grinding. The kind of financial pressure that does not announce itself with a single terrible event, but instead simply never lifts. Every month was a calculation. Every unexpected expense was a negotiation. The car making a noise it had not made the month before became a source of genuine dread. A child's school trip became a conversation I did not want to have. And the exhaustion of it, the low-level, constant, unrelenting exhaustion of living at that register, had started to settle into something that frightened me far more than the numbers themselves did. It had started to settle into a quiet hopelessness. The kind that does not announce itself as hopelessness. The kind that wears the costume of realism and tells you it is simply being honest. I had been raised in this tradition. I knew the prayers. I knew the texts. I had sat at the feet of teachers who understood the mechanics of provision in ways I am still learning from even now. And yet there I was, 34 years old, sitting at a kitchen table at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night in February, the overhead light too bright, the numbers in front of me not cooperating, feeling as far from everything I had been taught as I had ever felt in my adult life. The disconnect between what I knew and what I was living had become painful in a specific way that I think anyone who has studied spiritual truth and then experienced material difficulty will recognize immediately. You know the teaching. You believe the teaching, and still the floor of your life will not rise. And you do not know what you are doing wrong, and the not knowing is almost worse than the difficulty itself. My grandmother, she was 81 that year, still sharp, still carrying herself with the particular quality of dignified unhurriedness that I have never seen in anyone else, before or since, called me that same Thursday night. She did not know what I was sitting with. I had not told her. I would not have told her, not to protect her from worry, but because there is a particular shame in being someone who teaches these things and still cannot seem to make them work in her own kitchen. But she had a habit, my grandmother, of calling at precisely the moment she was needed. She never acknowledged this as remarkable. She simply called, the way a lamp simply gives light, without commentary on the darkness. We talked about ordinary things for a while, her neighbor, a recipe she had been adjusting, the weather in her part of the city. And then, near the end of the conversation, in the same voice she would use to remind me about a dentist appointment, she said, "Naomi, do you still have coins in the house? Not bills, coins." I told her I thought so, somewhere. She said, "Find 3 of them tonight. Put them under your pillow before you sleep. Hold them in your closed hands first and say the words." I asked her which words. She told me. And then, before she said goodnight, she said something that I have carried in the front of my mind for 27 years since that phone call. She said, "The coins are not magic, Naomi. They are a vessel. You are telling your hands what your hands need to believe before your mind is willing to follow." I found 3 coins. The denomination did not matter. She had been clear about that. Held them in my hands, said the words she gave me, put them under my pillow, and went to sleep. Nothing happened that night. Nothing happened the next day either. But on the Saturday of that same week, 3 days after that Thursday call, I received a phone call from a woman I had not spoken to in nearly 2 years. Someone I had done professional consulting work for long before, who had tracked me down through a mutual contact to ask whether I was available for a project. The project was real. The payment was real. It was not a fortune, but it was almost exactly the amount that resolved the specific pressure that had been sitting on the kitchen table in front of me 3 nights before. I am not telling you this as proof of anything. I have been a teacher long enough to know that one story proves nothing, and that the soul searching for permission to dismiss will always find its permission. What I am telling you is that what my grandmother gave me that night was not a trick with coins. It was a reorientation of my hands, and through my hands, my body, and through my body, the whole quality of my inner state, toward the posture of receiving before the receiving had arrived. And that reorientation, I have come to understand across 31 years of teaching and practicing this tradition, is the only thing that was ever actually needed. Here is what the tradition actually teaches about this practice, and here is why it has survived in the folk wisdom of Jewish households across so many centuries and so many geographies. The coins under the pillow appears in written form in a number of Ashkenazi household texts from the 17th and 18th centuries, practical guides to household blessing and protection that were kept by women, passed from mother to daughter, written in Yiddish rather than Hebrew, precisely because they were intended for daily use rather than formal liturgical study. These were working documents, worn at the edges, stained from kitchens, annotated in different hands across generations, as each woman added her own observations and refinements to the practices she had inherited. In these texts, the practice is described with a specificity that signals it was not invented romantically, but observed empirically, adjusted and refined by women who tracked what it produced and passed forward what they confirmed worked. 3 coins, not 1, not 5, 3. The number 3 in Kabbalistic understanding represents the first stable structure, the triangle, the minimum configuration for something to hold its shape against pressure. 1 point is a moment, unrepeatable and ungeneralizable. 2 points establish a line, a direction, but not yet a form that can stand. 3 points create a shape with integrity, something that can hold its position when the weight of the night presses on it. 3 coins placed beneath the sleeping place create, in the understanding of these texts, a triangle of intention that is geometrically and spiritually stable enough to persist through the night hours, through the long hours of sleep when the conscious mind releases its grip and the deeper levels of the soul make their nightly ascent and return. And it is precisely during those hours, the tradition teaches, that the channel of provision is most accessible. Not because the sleeping person is doing something, they are sleeping, they are not performing any practice in their sleep, but because sleep is the state in which the vessel is most completely open. The ordinary noise of the waking mind, the calculations, the worries, the endless internal negotiation with the numbers, the commentary running beneath every thought, all of that goes silent. And into that silence, the intention set before sleep can travel without obstruction, without the static of the anxious mind interrupting the signal. The placement under the pillow rather than beside the bed or in the hand is also specific and intentional, and the specificity matters. The pillow is the threshold between the waking world and the sleeping one. It is the surface of crossing. What is placed at that threshold is placed, in the precise symbolic language the tradition uses, at the doorway between the two states of consciousness, not fully in the waking world and not yet in the sleeping one, at the point of transition. And the tradition understands, with a consistency that appears across too many texts from too many places to be accidental, that the threshold is the location of maximum spiritual permeability. It is the place where things pass most easily between layers of reality. This is the reason the mezuzah is placed at the doorpost of the home, not in the center of the room, not at the hearth, not at the window, at the threshold, because the threshold is where what enters and what leaves must pass, and where the blessing on the household is therefore most powerfully positioned. This is the reason the Havdalah candle is lit at the specific moment of transition between the Sabbath and the ordinary week, at the threshold between the two, where the sacred can be carried forward into the mundane. The threshold is not a location of ambiguity, it is a location of power. And the coins placed at the threshold of the soul's nightly crossing are an intention positioned precisely where it will travel with the greatest ease into the layer where provision originates and where the channel can be opened or closed. Now I want to give you the complete practice as I received it from my grandmother, and as I have refined it across 31 years of teaching it to others. Because the coins alone, placed without the understanding and without the specific preparation, are just coins under a pillow. The vessel without the intention is an empty vessel, and an empty vessel placed at the threshold crosses into the night with nothing to carry. First, choose the coins with intention. 3 coins of any denomination. The tradition does not specify an amount, and the teachers I have studied with are unanimous on this, because the amount is not the point. What matters is that you choose them deliberately, not 3 coins grabbed at random from a pile of change. 3 coins selected, held in the palm, looked at. In the moment of selection, you are already beginning the practice. You are already directing your attention toward the intention you are about to set. Second, before you bring the coins to the bedroom, hold them in both hands, not one, both, with your hands closed around them in a loose fist, not tight. The tradition is specific about this. A tight fist is the gesture of holding, of withholding, of refusing to release. A loose fist is the gesture of holding in readiness, open enough to give, closed enough to keep until the right moment. Hold the coins in this way for approximately 1 minute. During that minute, do not think about what you want to receive. Think about what you are grateful for having already received. The home you sleep in. The body that is about to rest. Any provision that came to you today, however small, however ordinary. This is not positive thinking as the modern world teaches it. This is the specific preparation the tradition requires, the state of genuine gratitude established before the intention is spoken, because an intention spoken from a state of gratitude travels differently than one spoken from a state of want. Third, speak the intention aloud. In Hebrew, if you carry the language. In your own tongue, if you do not. The tradition is clear that the soul hears the native tongue with the most directness. Say these words, or words that carry the same meaning in your own expression. I place these as a sign of my readiness. I am a vessel prepared to receive. Let what is meant for this household find its way to us in the night and in the day that follows. Fourth, place the coins under the pillow. Not tossed, placed, with the same deliberateness with which you selected them. They are an anchor, a physical marker of the intention you just set. Fifth, sleep. This is the practice. The rest is not your work to do. You have set the intention, prepared the vessel, positioned the anchor at the threshold. The night will carry what you have placed there into the space where the channel is open. In the morning, before you remove the coins, sit for one moment on the edge of the bed and say aloud, I receive what came in the night. Whether I can see it yet or not, I receive it. Then remove the coins. Keep them somewhere intentional, not scattered back into the random change pile. A specific place, a designated place. They have been used as a spiritual vessel, and they carry that use with them. I need to tell you something now that most teachers of this practice do not say, and I believe the omission is a serious one. This practice does not produce what you are demanding. It produces what the channel can carry based on the state of the vessel. If your household has been in a state of prolonged contraction, years of financial anxiety, years of releasing money and fear, years of the patterns I have described in previous teachings, then the first fruit of this practice may be small. It may be a sign rather than a solution. A small, unexpected return. A conversation that opens a door. A sudden clarity about a decision that has been blocked. Do not dismiss these as insufficient. Do not look at the small sign and say the practice failed because the amount was not what you needed. The tradition is unambiguous on this. The first fruits are always modest. They are the channel opening, not the channel flowing at full capacity. What you do with the first fruits determines what comes next. If you receive the small sign with genuine gratitude, if you acknowledge it, name it aloud, treat it as the confirmation it is, you signal to the channel that the vessel is ready and responsive, and the channel opens further. If you receive the small sign with disappointment, with the inner commentary of, "Is that all?" with a dismissal that it was probably coincidence anyway, you close the channel at precisely the moment it was beginning to move. This is the test. It arrives in the form of something that is almost enough to confirm the practice, but not quite dramatic enough to be undeniable. And how you respond to that almost is the entire practice in its most concentrated form. What I have given you today is the practice, the tradition behind it, and the understanding that makes the practice a living thing rather than a superstition. The complete teaching, including the specific words my grandmother gave me that Thursday evening in February, the companion morning practice that pairs with the nighttime coins to create a complete cycle of intentional receiving, and the extended teaching on the Kabbalistic understanding of sleep as the primary channel of spiritual provision. All of that is in the resource I have linked in the description. The coins under the pillow tonight are the beginning. The resource in the description is the architecture of everything that follows from that beginning. The link is there. Use it. Before you go tonight, I want to know one thing. Tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment where money arrived in an unexpected way, from an unexpected direction, at exactly the moment you needed it? Just describe it briefly. I am asking because I want you to see, through your own experience, through your own memory, that the channel has opened for you before. It has moved toward you before. The practice I am teaching you tonight is not introducing something new into your life. It is intentionally reopening something that has already shown you it exists. I want you to see that in your own story before you sleep tonight. And if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, please do that now and turn on the notification bell. Next week, I am going to reveal the specific object that the tradition says must never be kept in the bedroom if you want the night hours to work for your financial life rather than against it. And based on what I know about most modern bedrooms, it is almost certainly in yours right now. You will want to know what it is before next week passes. And if what I shared today opens something real in you, if the question I asked at the beginning finally has a different quality of answer in you now, press the like button. It is the simplest act of extending this wisdom to someone else who is lying awake tonight asking the same question you asked when you first found this channel. May your sleep tonight be a crossing into open channels. May what is meant for your household find its way to you in the quiet hours. May your hands, when they open in the morning, already know the shape of what is coming. Shalom.